Alright everybody, WWE Crown Jewel, proudly presented by Tap Out Talk, Results and Thoughts. Let's get in.
Everybody fucking jump.
It was a night of excitement. It was a night where the WWE maybe just did a little bit more for the show across the pond over in Saudi Arabia. I would like to personally say this is a night where you guys would think that Logan Paul had no business being in a WWE title match, this famous YouTuber, just because it's his third match ever. But it's been a roller coaster. And I tell you what, this is a night where WWE, I believe, proved that sometimes it's not a matter of winning the championship. It's a matter of just winning the fans. And there's only a few moments in your career where you get to truly have those win the fan moments. Tonight, that's what Logan Paul was going for. He was not going for a championship. Make no mistake about it. He was going to win over the fans. That is what he could have gotten done. Best case scenario. And I'm proud to say that I feel he completely delivered against the Roman tribal chief, the Empire, that is Roman Reigns. Other matches, we get into a battle of the monsters. We got some women's action, and we also got a main opening match with Lesnar versus Lashley, part 2. But without further ado, let's go ahead and start. I'm your host, Bryan, the Hype, Ballard, and like we say around here, let's get in. I want to start off, the show starts off very quickly with Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. And I will say, I love this choice. I love that we started off right out hot out the gates with this Battle of the Brutes. So, I do want to point out though, at the beginning of the show, the WWE accidentally spoiled 2 major returns tonight. 2 major returns in the women's division. Sasha Banks and Naomi included in the opening video package by accident on Crown Jewel. Maybe, possibly spoiled something coming up this week or next week on Raw or SmackDown. But in regard of that, let's go ahead and continue. We get Titus O'Neil opening a narrating video package about really just how awesome Crown Jewel is. And then we get Lashley versus Lesnar. Lashley comes out first, followed by Lesnar in his entrance. Lashley, with a blitz early, rushes Lesnar on the floor and actually injures his knee, throwing him around the ringside area. Back inside, spear, boom, nope. Wait, the Hurt Lock then reversed into a German suplex. And another German suplex, the F5, but still no. Okay, this match started out hot and heavy with Bobby Lashley clearly on offense and dominating all the way through. So Bobby comes back, comes back from the suplex, sending him to the floor in a fireman's carry, and he puts the Beast into the ring post. So then they get back inside, the Hurt Lock's applied in the middle of the ring. So after a bunch of very heavy Bobby Lashley offense on Lesnar, and Lesnar did not get anything in really, except for a few German suplexes in this match. But back inside the ring, the Hurt Lock is applied in the middle of the ring. Lesnar claws his way up to the turnbuckles, and then basically accidentally unleashes and flips off of the turnbuckles, almost like Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin from Survivor Series 96. So anyway, at this point, they're going back at it. Lesnar falls and basically on top of Lashley and accidentally pins him while he's got the lock on. And then Lesnar wins by pinfall, reversing the Hurt Lock into a pin. And really it looked awkward and it came out of nowhere. And I was kind of like, whoa, what just happened? And Lashley, was interesting, right? Because he looked so dominant on this match despite Brock Lesnar getting the win and the pin. So post-match, just to ensue the point that they wanted to make, the WWE had Lashley put Brock back in the Hurt Lock again and chokes him to a more vivid shape of purple than normally for Brock. So basically, Lashley gets the beatdown on Brock post-match, and that leaves us to believe that there will be a part 3. Okay, so Lashley beat Lesnar at the Royal Rumble last year. Now we got Lesnar beating Lashley despite a very heavy Bobby Lashley dominated offense. I think we get the rubber match. We get part 3. very soon. So let's say, I don't know what kind of match that ends up being between these two, but I look forward to a really, really, really good, maybe a submission match or something crazy, right? That makes the other man tap out. These guys both have an MMA background. Maybe we can get a fight pit type match going on. Who knows? You guys be the judge. Let's get to our next match. So we got the Women's Tag Team Championship up next. We got Liv Morgan. We got a video package for her really briefly before the match. But then we got Alexa Bliss and Asuka, who are interviewed backstage by Byron Saxton, who is, looking amazing as always in his suits. And then Bliss says that you can't put them on the shelf for a few weeks and get rid of them. And this month's a retaliation coming to haunt Damage Control. Okay, so basically then, right in the middle of that segment, on the TV behind Alexa Bliss, she gets briefly distracted by the Bray Wyatt logo that shows up on the TV. She looks almost scared. And then, from there, she gets back into her interview mode and continues. And the fans are like, oh, and they got all into it. So anyway, we go to the match. This was Dakota Kai and Io Sky versus, of course, known as Damage Control, versus Alexa Bliss and Asuka. And, this is a match a lot of people really just got mad at kind of going into this match because, as you guys know, the titles were just won by Asuka and Bliss on Raw. And then tonight, of course, we got the titles by Damage Control won. Okay, so it was a lot of hot potatoes, people are calling it, of the titles. But really what we got into, it's interesting because they're trying to get Damage Control over. And shout out to my friend on Twitter, Carlos, and the people over at the Insight Wrestling Podcast. But Carlos made a really good point on their show over there with John and Will and Bama Girl. And basically what they got into was, he was saying how, Damage Control is really not over. And I gotta agree 100%. They are not over for some reason. Like, I want to like them. I like Bayley. I like these two ladies here. But why are they just not over? Maybe, and I liked Carlos's point, I want to, kind of give him credit for this. Maybe we need to do the Freebird rule with the defense of these titles with Damage Control, adding Bayley into the mix. Kind of like what New Day did a few years ago. So I like that idea. But regardless, let's get into how Damage Control got the titles tonight. So Bliss and Kai start. Dakota is taking control with an armbar. There's a whip to the corner and up and over. And basically then there's a whip to the corner, up and over, and Alexa once more. So then to the corner, there's an elbow up in the turnbuckles. They jockey for position, arm drag, reverse to a pin for a cover 2. Trading places, quick pin, but no avail. Kai clocks her in the face. The whip reverse drop down works, and then Dakota puts her in the ropes and makes for the tag. Sky wants to slam. Bliss floats over and tags out. Circling off the ropes, Io with a lariat. Asuka returns the favor with a shoulder block and then quickly tags out. Double suplex, Sky lands on her feet, but the babyface team hits a bulldog / facebreaker combo for the 1 and the 2. Okay, tag. Back to Kai. There's a drop kick that cuts her off. Asuka gets it in, knocking Damage Control off the ropes. And then it basically baseball slides to the floor. Back inside, Dakota is working the legs, tags into Io. There's a dragon screw, and Asuka is in a bad way. So tag to Bliss coming in, lighting 2 for 1, and then palm strikes and kicks and double drop kicks and lays them out, right? So this match goes on, and they're just going all over the place. It eventually leads to a spot with a Tower of Doom in the corner. If you guys aren't aware, they're all stacked up in the corner, all the girls in the corner, and one big giant suplex to the floor. Very NXT style, and I like it with all these girls. So at this point, later on in the match, we get a twisted Bliss. We get a knees up, a match breaks down, Asuka steps aside an acai moonsault and hits the alarm clock. Alexa with a DDT. Up top, Nikki Cross runs in and trips her up with the referee, and AJ Pereira is occupied at this point. And there's a hanging DDT off the top rope, and Kai with the cover. So Damage Control wins with the WWE's Tag Team Championship by pinfall with a lateral press from Dakota Kai and Alexa Bliss. So it's interesting here, right? Because we had some, back and forth, some pretty good, action overall. I didn't really hate the match. I think we have to take away the element of how the women's titles don't really mean much right now. And I'm hoping that we could get Damage Control built back up to a point where maybe they can bring some relevancy to these titles. I would like to see this end up being like what they're doing with Toxic Attraction down in NXT with the ladies down there holding the tag titles. So maybe they can do the same thing with Damage Control up on the main roster. Now that we got, some of the powers that be are in control, and hopefully get this thing back on track. Let's get to our next match. So our next matchup was a steel cage match, and this is the final confrontation between none other than Drew McIntyre and Karrion Killer Kross. So before that, we see Logan Paul arrive at the arena tonight, but then we get right into the steel cage being dropped and the match going on. So McIntyre starts out, they ducks a lariat, and if you remember, these two have had a couple matches now, and the last one was really a hook and crook type situation with Scarlett spraying mace in the eyes of McIntyre. So just kind of keeping that in mind on this one to foreshadow. So we get a front kick and a lariat, and Drew takes him off his feet. We chop and punches in the ropes. A big back suplex, and McIntyre's all fired up. Karrion hits a throat thrust. She's looking to climb out while Drew is grasping, but he gets cut off. So Kross turns the tide again back to the floor, trading chops with McIntyre, smashing his face into the cage wall, kind of reminiscent of when he first showed up and slammed his head into the chair or the stairs on the outside. So he's choking him in the corner. Drew explodes with lariats with a belly-to-belly suplex, smashing Karrion into the steel. Kross gets under him. There's a float over into the cage. Back elbow. McIntyre hits a Michinoku driver for a 1 and a 2. Right? But up top, jockeying for position. Drew with the spire, belly-to-belly superplex. Karrion recovers and draws him up, but McIntyre smashes him into the steel fist and follows with a spine buster. Jackknife pin. Nope, not done yet. The cross jacket is in, but Drew rolls through into a sleeper of his own. McIntyre follows it with a snap DDT, a kip up, and countdown. But Scarlett is on the cage running interference, as we should suspect. Right? That's what the managers do. That is what I like about this Scarlett and Karrion combo that we get, is we get an old school manager vibe and feel, right? It's not quite Rusev and Lana. It does have an old school vibe of a manager interfering appropriately. And a good manager will make you realize that they're not there until they're actually meant to be shown. And I love that about Scarlett. So, moving right back in, we get Scarlett opens the door basically for her guy. And then at this point, she goes to walk through, but Drew cuts him off and he beats him down. And then she maces him, right? Going back to what ties into the story they've been telling, which I like that look there. I like when stories make sense. She shuts it, she locks it, and she takes away the key this time. McIntyre climbs as she scrambles to unlock the door to let Karrion out then. So kind of as the match is rounding up, you got Drew climbing the cage, and you got Scarlett fumbling for the key to let Karrion Kross out. And at this point, just as she gets the door open, McIntyre is already barely almost out, and boom, Drew McIntyre's wins, barely by escaping the cage because Karrion Kross could not make it out on time. Partially because Scarlett did not plan ahead when she locked that door. I don't think that's going to be the story they're going to go with here, with it being her fault. But I do think this is a great way to end the match. No guy looked weak in this whole series, and each of these guys are borderline mid-carders, going to the main event. And I like the fact that both of them walked out of this feud looking strong, right? And so Drew does get the win, right, in a babyface fashion. There will be other days for both of these guys. So I like that this is the roots of a rivalry that started to blend in now. Kicking gears up into tag team action. We got the 6-man tag team match with Judgment Day coming out, and then the OC, aka the Original Club. So at this point, we see Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, of course, showing up in the background without Sami Zayn. And then we basically at this point get our 6-man tag team match underway. So a lot of people feel that Judgment Day may be losing its edge. I think it's right on target. I like the idea of this, back and forth multi-man matches. I like the original club idea. And the real talk here is AJ versus Finn, right? That's the match that everybody really kind of wants to see go at it. Damian Priest is good. And so I like the fact that, everything, Dominic in Judgment Day, I'm okay with it. Some people are mixed, right? Some people like the idea of him in it. Some people don't. Dominic, to me, still needs a lot of work. And when you have a superstar that needs a lot of work and needs to be groomed correctly, you either put them in a tag team or you put them in a faction. And I feel like this allows Dominic to stand on his own without his father and allows you to see him, but he still can blend into this group while he develops his very green and young skills, right? So, at this point, we get the match going and underway, and we have Ballard and Anderson start. There's a waistlock front kick, back and forth, and then, Michael Cole is talking about Carl being the Never Open Weight Championship, which is over in Japan, right? So we kind of get into that, which I was kind of surprised that they went there. That tells me the WWE is wanting to stay in the good graces of New Japan Wrestling. I think they possibly might have burned a little bit of a bridge, or maybe a forbidden door, if you will. And so I feel like, that was them making a little bit of peace with New Japan by acknowledging their title. Something, mind you, that they didn't do for Tony Khan when he wanted to allow Billy Gunn to show up on DX Reunion Night, but we're not getting into that. So, at this point, we got a lot of tags made back and forth. Styles is working Dominic over at this point, and then we have a backbreaker into the corner, and we have a tag to Gallows, and the big man crushes the younger Mysterio. We have a big body slam off the top ropes for an elbow drop, taking him to the turnbuckles with quick tags, back and forth, and now Judgment Day is clearly in control. We got quick tags working Machine Gun over some length, and then he tags in Luke. Gallows slings Mysterio in, takes him out with a lariat. There's a backsplash, and he freight trains basically right through Dominic. There's a pumpable slam, tag back to Anderson. There's a magic killer blocked by Priest, and basically makes the save. So, a very hot tag to AJ Styles, taking Ballard and Priest out. Slingshot, sliding knee for Mysterio. Slingshot, back inside. 619 reversed into a Uragoshi. Finn with a figure 4 leg lock. And Carl breaks it up with a senton. Dom sends him running. And Gallows with the gas mask. Priest takes him out with a boot. Ballard up top, AJ cuts him off, and soon enough everybody's down and out. Rhea Ripley at this point in the match runs interference. Finn kicks Styles into the corner off the top rope. And at this point, what happens is Judgment Day wins by pinfall with a coup de grace from Finn Balor on AJ Styles. So that continues the story. The one element that's missing for this that will go to Survivor Series is probably going to be Edge and Beth Phoenix. They're going to build towards something. Promise you that. But wasn't the most highlighted match of the night, but it did its job before they got into a little bit of a break. Speaking of breaks, I just want to say thank you guys for the liking, the sharing, the subscribing, the simply just being my friend out there on Twitter even, right? So I want to shout out a couple things. I want to shout out the fans of ProWrestling.com and all the folks over there at the Insight Podcast with John, Will, Heather, Carlos. Enjoy your guys' work. I enjoy your guys' takes, and most importantly, I enjoy just our overall interactions. Shout out to anybody in the community. I think I'm gonna start doing shout outs on these videos at this point. But if you are new to the channel, go ahead and hit a like or subscribe. Greatly appreciate it. Let's move on. All right, we get to the Battle of the Monsters next. A very returning Braun Strowman versus Amos, and I will say, big men. Start out, they're jawing face to face in the ring at each other, and Amos offers a test of strength and whips Strowman hard into the corner. So the test of strength, that was a very much like, you could tell he was looking at him and saying, okay, Strowman, let's get these hands, right? Let's get these hands. So it's amazing how much taller Amos is to Strowman, who is not a small man by any means. But I will say this match did a really good job of a classic old school big man battle. And they did a really good job of making Amos look super strong in this match, right? So he didn't look like an easy foe. But they also wanted to keep their big man, Braun Strowman, strong as well. So I think they did a good job pretty much tonight all around with not making any one person look weak. So I got to applaud WWE for that booking. But after they do the test of strength, which had that very old school 1980s, 1990s feel to it, I loved it. And at that point, basically almost cheats to get out of it. And then in the corner, he hits a body avalanche. He's off the ropes. There's a hard kick to the ribs, headbutts, cuts Braun off. As he tries to come back, one arm power slam on the Monster Among Men. Strowman powers up, his right hand's into the ropes. The Nigerian Giant shrugs it off and takes tries the clothesline, basically tries 2 times basically to clothesline him out to the floor. Braun, then he likes his little tray, right? He likes his little Strowman Express, right? So he does that. And he does the Express train going to the floor. And then there's a pounce block with a body avalanche. So basically they kind of go out a little bit there. Then they go back inside looking for a choke bomb. Strowman blocks, almost throws him into the corner. Off the ropes, sidesteps the charge. Braun gets him up, and Strowman wins and the pinfall with a running power slam. It took him a little bit to get him up there, but once he got one running power slam down, 1, 2, 3, the Battle of the Monsters is over, and Braun Strowman is your beast. Guys, I gotta say, it's the right call. Braun Strowman just came back, and he has already been a former WWE champion. And you gotta make your champions win here, right? However, I liked what the WWE did with Amos tonight in this matchup. I liked that they made him look like a heck of a mountain to crawl for and climb for Braun Strowman. So I enjoyed the fact that they left Amos looking strong. And I do say that this big match, the big man match, was usually the bathroom breaks, right? But at this point, I feel like they did a good job of keeping it effective, keeping it short, and letting both guys shine. Where do we go from here? I'm going to say Braun Strowman is going to continue the big man moniker. Amos, I don't know what they're going to do with. Maybe these guys continue matchups, right? Maybe they add some more monsters, if you will, into the fold. Who knows? Maybe we can get a classic Monsters Ball match. I know that was famous for TNA days, but you guys are aware that Abyss, right? The monster called Abyss from TNA does work backstage with WWE. Maybe we can get a return of him in a Monsters Ball match with Braun and Amos and maybe a few other select guys. Who knows? But at the end of the day, I think it was the right call here. Now we get into our men's tag team championship. We got the Usos of the Bloodline versus the Brawling Brutes. Pete, a.k.a. Butch Dunn, and Ridge Holland. So, a.k.a. Sheamus's lackeys, right? It's kind of almost like the battle of the henchmen, if you will, right? We got Roman's henchmen versus Sheamus's henchmen. Now, I do want to say, both of these teams looked really good in this match. This was a solid wrestling tag team match, and I was so glad to see it with some real tag teams with real names, not just Ridge and Butch, right? We have the Brawling Brutes, an actual tag team name, and they look alike, versus the Usos. Okay, and I will say this. When's the last time the Usos have actually had a bad tag team match? We're going to keep that in mind here. I can't think of the last time they've had a bad tag team match on pay-per-view. So at that point, we get the match started, and Pete Dunne and Jimmy start out, and the Uso basically bails, and he and his brother decide they're just going to walk off, but Butch cuts him off, and then kind of doing the heel thing, and Jimmy taking Jimmy back inside the ring with a bicep stomp. Jay tags in, and they put the boots to Dunn with quick tags. Holland tags in, and now it's his turn to shine. There's a double back body drop. There's a beat of the Ballard, but Jimmy saves his brother before all 10 can actually land. So there's a lot of tributes tonight to Sheamus, who just got married over the weekend, so in his home country. So, you know, that's kind of why he was absent tonight. So then back inside, we have a Bossman slam for 2 done, and the Jay fights them off 2 for 1. Jimmy makes the save, and then there's super kick set up, and everybody, you know, do something cool section of the match, right? So we get to that point where everybody's just doing cool stuff. Okay, at this point, Butch is looking to wishbone Jimmy's fingers, but Jay makes the save. The Usos are up top, and there is a duo diving splashes, but Ridge breaks the pin up. Pete Dunne goes for Jay's injured wrist, which we don't know if it's storyline or if it's legit, but we do know it's a part of this matchup. So Holland hits the white noise while Butch has Jimmy trapped, but it's not enough. Assisted, North, Grit. Jimmy makes the save, getting done up on top. The Usos win by pinfall in the end of this one with an avalanche 1D to retain the WWE Unified Tag Team Championships. This was a good match again. WWE did a good job of making both teams look strong, but however, nobody's taking this title away from the Usos for a little while, and it's sure not going to happen at Crown Jewel tonight. So at this point, we have the men's tag team in the books. They're going to come in. It's not the last we're going to see of the Usos tonight, though. Let's move on. So now we have the Raw Women's Championship. And I want to remind you, this is a women's last standing match. So a last women's standing match. We get a Cody Rhodes package, which I find is interesting. I went back and watched the replay and it wasn't there. But it's interesting that WWE was showing stuff and they kind of cut that out of the editing for some reason. So Bayley, Bianca Belair come out. Bayley's entrance was regular. Bayley's entrance was a normal entrance, but Bianca got the full treatment. Probably one of the best entrances of the night so far. She got hieroglyphics in the sky. She got fireworks out of the stadium. I get it. The WWE machine is all behind Bianca Belair. And you know what? She's coming along very nicely in her role. So, at this point, who's going to take away the strap and the title? Is Bayley going to win? Is she going to do the Toxic Attraction thing with her group, Damage Control? Let's find out. So, we start out, Bayley shoves Belair down and demands an immediate count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nope, not that quick. It's not going to happen that quick. But that's what Bayley wants. So, at this point, this is going to be, you know, an interesting matchup. Bianca hits a couple slams, a total, I believe, of 3, before passing the role model to the floor, letting the referee count. Back inside, Bayley brings a chair with her, moonsaults up and over Belair, and drop kicks her into the chair. Okay, Bayley now has a ladder and she slides in the ring, but ends up fighting near the steps. Suplex on the floor. She puts Bianca in the chair and nails her with a diving lariat off the barricade. Bayley sets up a table, but Belair recovers. Suplex blocked. Right hand suplex on the ramp. So this table is sitting at ringside. Bayley stumbles to the edge of the ramp, seemingly injuring her leg, but it was a ruse, and she explodes with a forearm. Back in the ring, walloping the champion with the chair to the floor. Bianca, trapping Bianca inside the steps with the ladder over her head. So this is a point in the match where Bianca was actually trapped in between the ring and the steps, and she couldn't move or do anything. And this was Bayley's chance to just wail on her, right, and just start cracking her while she was trapped on the outside there. So at this point, Bianca powers up and throws the steps up and off the ground. They're trying to show Bianca's strength, right? Spinebuster then puts the challenger into the steel steps, and fighting up the ramp, Belair's hammering Bayley with the kendo stick shots back and forth, right? Splintering the wood of the kendo sticks. Bayley to belly on the stage, and both women at this point are down. Bayley rams her with the road case and traps her basically in it. So there's a equipment case that comes, it's hanging around on the stage, and it's wide open. She actually runs her over with it, and Bayley falls in the equipment case. And at that point, Bayley slams it shut and traps Bianca inside it. So this is a point where I thought it was a very good heelish move by Bayley. And if they wanted to do a title change tonight, this would have been the way it should have been done. Locking her in a box where she can't stand up. That would be very genius way to change a title without making Bianca look weak, right? It almost like Bayley cheated, but she didn't. So at this point, Bayley fights out of it. Or basically, Bianca pops up out of the box and fights out. Bayley then puts the arm trap crossface on the stage. She's wrenching it back, and Belair fades as she lets go. Bianca makes the count, and here comes the role model, basically Bayley, driving a golf cart from wherever in the backstage. And I couldn't help it when she was trying to run Bianca over with the golf cart. There was a point where Bianca almost got up too quick, and she was kind of like, no! It reminded me of the old Austin Powers movie, where, you know, there was the guy, the henchman with the steamroller, and he kept screaming, no, like 5 times in a row, and the steamroller was going really slow over him. That's what it reminded me of a little bit tonight. But it was so brief. I don't know if anybody would have noticed it overall. So, at this point, they go on, and she stops. They fight on the golf cart. They actually get on top of the golf cart, and they start fighting on top of the golf cart. And at this point, Bianca gets the better of it, leaving Bayley on top of the golf cart and driving her on the roof all the way back to the ring, and then she ends up throwing her off the edge of a table when she gets back down there. So the referee's counting, and Belair decides to get under, powerbomb through the table, and at this point the referee's counting again, and Bayley makes the count. Back inside the ring, the body slam into some chairs, stacking more chairs on Bayley. And up top, there's a 450 splash, and nobody's home, and Bianca totally eats the chairs for breakfast. Belair beats the count. Bayley opens up a ladder and hits her with some chair shots. Bianca recovers, the kiss of death onto the chair. She rolls the challenger into the ladder and actually closes the ladder on her, pushing it into the corner so she can't get up and she can't escape. Bayley is trapped. Bayley can't get up, and Bianca Belair wins through that kind of a measure. So, she wins when Bayley can't answer the 10 count, despite being very wide awake and able to. And she retains the Raw Women's title. So, Bianca Belair finds a way to walk away from the women's last woman standing match. At this point, we get the special attraction of the evening, Bray Wyatt. And this actually happens. Bray comes out to his entrance. We get it on the mic. And some might say, that this is, some people feel like this is starting to run its course. I feel like it's just beginning, right? And so you had to have Bray Wyatt on Crown Jewel. He's one of the hottest things going on right now. So he gives a speech, and he gives a speech of, you can tell in his speech that Bray is struggling. And I want you guys to think about this. If you get some time, go back and watch those White Rabbit scan codes. Before we knew it was Bray Wyatt, right? But watch them now that we know it is Bray Wyatt, and it was leading to his return. There's a lot of things. And there's one that I thought about tonight that I watched. It was the Hangman one with the rabbit. And remember, that rabbit before, it's the Hangman answer to the question was, who killed the world? You did, right? But the rabbit, in its wrong answers, spells the word demon. That makes a lot of sense now that we know what Bray Wyatt is dealing with. He's dealing with his demons of his life. This has a very strong parallel in this story to somebody that is dealing with personal demons. The WWE comes up with a storyline once in a while that connects to a real audience member. And if anybody's ever struggled with some kind of personal demons, I feel like this storyline can reach out to them and be a part of, maybe an inspiring story to tell. So you can tell Bray is trying to change for the better, but Uncle Howdy shows up once again and basically tells him why wear the mask, why to take the mask off. You're going to eventually get there anyway, just keep the mask on, despite Bray wanting to be just Bray Wyatt. So at that point, we get to the end, and that's the end of the segment, right? So at this point, we're going to keep this going. We're going to get further and further and further with the Bray Wyatt mystery. I like how we're getting tastes along the way. And who is Uncle Howdy? More importantly, let's think about what that meant tonight with Alexa Bliss seeing the Bray Wyatt logo in her interview. It's all going to come and be clear very soon. But now, and up next, is the main event, the Universal Championship match. We've got Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul. And out first is none other than the Maverick, Logan Paul. It's his third match ever in the WWE or the world of wrestling. And he's going to get a title shot against one of the modern day best champions of the current era. So Logan makes his way out to the ring on a big platform. He's doing selfies. He's streaming live for his podcasting and his YouTubing. But as the platform lowers, Logan goes to the ring, celebrates, and then we get the entrance of the real Universal Champion, Roman Reigns, along with Paul Heyman. And you know, as JR used to say, business is about to pick up. And the question remains, not a matter of will Roman retain, but how much of a challenge will Logan Paul be to Roman Reigns, one of the greatest performers of the modern era. And so with that, Roman makes his way to the ring. He's got the title. He's remembering the promo that Paul Heyman told him of the puncher's chance. That's what they're really selling, is one lucky punch. And Roman wants to prove that his Superman punch is that lucky punch. So we get into the match at this point. And I do want to say, it didn't disappoint at all, guys. This was probably my favorite match of the night. And I think it's because maybe our expectations was lowered, right? I feel that Shawn Michaels did some really great work with Logan Paul. Logan Paul did a lot of great work training. And I also feel like the WWE did a really good job of giving him that true underdog puncher's chance storyline. So at this point, we start off the match. There's some circling between the two. There's a collar, lockup, and an elbow. Reigns then shoves him into the corner and laughs, basically throwing the one up. Back to the lockup. This time in the corner, Paul shoves him and gets in his face. A shoving match breaks out, and Logan's feeling a little risky, and Roman with a go behind, and then standing switch, a waistlock takedown from the challenger. Reigns, with a standing switch, takes down his own. A fireman's carry from Paul gets him a big slice into the right. Roman ducks the punch and takes a breather on the floor. Back inside, Logan tells the tribal chief to stop running. Reigns pushes him into the corner. There's a dirty break with a right hand, and then a whip across. A big back elbow lays him out. There's a straight suplex, a cover, and an overhead elbows. A body blows from Paul. Roman is off the top ropes. The shoulder block, the hip toss, and Reigns is starting to worry. A lot of chain wrestling at this point. A clothesline sends the champion over the top ropes to the floor. Logan follows out to the floor after him and throws him over the timekeeper's barricade. Paul then throws a crossbody off the barricade, throwing Reigns back inside. There's a buckshot lariat that takes him off the feet. Nope. Superman punch. Boom. Takes Logan down and takes Roman and gives him a breather. He's putting boots to him. Reigns and basically a half camel clutch. He's talking trash, and it's nice touch using the camel clutch in Saudi Arabia. I like that. So trash talking, telling Paul that there ain't going to be no more YouTubers coming around. Logan powers out of it. Roman whips him, the sidestep, and then basically sidesteps the charge. And then at that point, both men are down. Slowly rising to their feet, trading shots. Paul with the lariat and a back elbow. knocking Reigns down. A scoop lift, float over into the corner, a back elbow, a diving blockbuster, but still no. Guys, this is a good matchup. This was a good one-on-one back and forth, and I liked what these two men did in the ring. There wasn't a lot of distractions with other members until about midway, maybe 3/4 way into the match. So at this point, we're getting there. So the crowd's getting fired up. There's a diving cross body that sets up a standing moonsault and so close. Logan is just tasting it. He's tuning up the band a la Shawn Michaels style. That's why they were showing him training with Shawn. He's doing sweet chin music. Roman rises, he blocks the super kick, and he hits a rock bottom. Shades of The Rock, his cousin. And he can't quite keep Logan Paul down. So, calling for it, Paul sidesteps the Superman punch. The lucky punch is hit, and Roman is stumbling, and his jaw is hurting. Another punch. Roman Reigns will not lose to this YouTube person in this third match ever. To the floor, setting Reigns up on the announcer's desk. Paul takes selfies with his crew at ringside, and he goes up top with the camera, and there's a cross body block off of the table. Right through the announcer's table, right? We've seen a little bit of this kind of stuff at SummerSlam with The Miz, but this was a great spot as well. The Usos then hit the ringside area. At this point, this is where it starts breaking down. And they pull Logan's pals out in front of the row. They beat them up. Jay takes one in the ring and lays him out with a super kick. Jimmy brings the other one, and he eats a super kick too. Jake Paul then makes the save for his brother with all the extra interference. He drops both of the Usos with really, really bad punches. At that point, he throws Roman back in the ring for his brother and tells Logan, finish this up, right? So at this point, Reigns kicks out of a frog splash from Logan Paul to the top. Solo Sikoa evens the odds coming down to the ring with his music. And at this point, referees and people backstage calm down to moderate, and Logan slides back in, and then boom, Superman punch. Lays him out with a roaring crowd. Roman Reigns, 1, 2, 3 after the spear. Okay, and at that point, Universal Champion, still the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. The Bloodline stands tall at the end of this one like we knew they would. But at the end of the day, Logan Paul did really good in the match. It come out that he actually did hurt his knee, his meniscus, his ACL. Really just shredded everything. And he's going to be out for a while. And so, unfortunately, while he had a good match, he definitely paid the price of battling Roman. So, what I want to really talk about is the ability of the WWE to promote a match with a famous YouTuber and make it be believable against Roman Reigns. I thought that was done really well. And so let's get into our final thoughts. And with that, Crown Jewel. Crown Jewel did a good job today. There was no really bad matches. Even what I thought was going to be a bad match was actually done very efficiently, right? There was nothing I hated. Some matches just moved the story along. And I feel like that was the purpose of Crown Jewel, was to put off a good enough show with some stars, but keep the story moving. Keep getting back to normal business, and we're going to be pushing straight into Survivor Series, where we're really going to start building for WrestleMania. Okay? Everybody feels that Royal Rumble builds to WrestleMania. No. I feel Survivor Series plants the seeds of the feuds that we might see, right? So, that's where we're heading. Crown Jewel did deliver tonight. There was not anything in the match. I'm going to take away my thoughts of the women's tag titles, jumping around too much. But at the end of the day, the match itself was not bad. The matches that I didn't care for were short enough to where they didn't stay around long enough to where I just didn't like them. So kudos to the WWE and the booking team for getting that done tonight at Crown Jewel. We got the job done, and now they can get back to the regular scheduled programming. I do want to say, Logan Paul did his job really well tonight, and Roman, shout out, did his job really well tonight. So I also want to kind of just mention, like I said in the beginning, it's not about winning the championship for Logan Paul. It was about winning the crowd. And this was a win the crowd moment that the fans will remember. Okay, this kind of reminds me of, with him getting injured, that just adds icing to the cake. This is kind of like when Cody Rhodes hurt himself with the pectoral tear and still finished the match. Logan Paul finished that match tonight with his injuries. So again, third match ever, not bad for the WWE in his rookie year. So kudos to Logan Paul, kudos to the Bloodline, the right choice was made, and now we can build to bigger and better things as we're approaching WrestleMania season. Speaking of bigger and better things, I just want to say thank you to all you guys out there and for liking, sharing, subscribing, and being part of the channel. It's not goodbye around here. Like we always say, it's game over.